Welcome back to the channel Liberty Coin Value. Today we explore one of the most astonishing stories in American numismatics, the incredible tale of the 1999 United States 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors and enthusiasts alike with its staggering estimated value of $987 million. A figure that seems almost unbelievable considering its original purpose as a simple 1-cent piece of currency meant for daily use, yet through a combination of historical context, minting anomalies, striking errors, and the obsessive pursuit of collectors, this particular coin has risen far beyond its face value, transforming into a mythical treasure within the numismatic community. And as we unfold the details behind this coin's creation, its journey through circulation, the mistakes made during its striking at the Denver Mint, and the layers of error possibilities that compound its rarity, you will begin to see why such an astronomical valuation is even discussed. So let us begin with the year 1999 itself. A year that carried with it the significance of being the final year before the new millennium, a time when people across the world were looking both backward at the past century and forward into the uncertainties of the future, and in the United States the Lincoln cent remained one of the most produced and circulated coins. Continuing the long-running series that began in 1909 honoring President Abraham Lincoln, struck in vast quantities with billions entering commerce, yet within this ocean of copper-plated zinc coins a tiny handful of extraordinary anomalies managed to slip through, and it is among these anomalies that the 1999 cent in question emerges, forever changing the perception of what a single penny could represent. Now, to understand the immense valuation, we must first recognize the significance of the mint mark D, which identifies the Denver Mint, one of the primary facilities responsible for producing coinage for the United States, and in 1999 the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of cents using high-speed machinery where dies were pressed repeatedly into planchets to create the coins. But as with any industrial process, especially one involving such speed and volume, mistakes inevitably occurred, ranging from off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes, die clashes, misaligned dies, repunched mint marks, to rare transitional errors. And while many of these errors are considered collectible and can fetch hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on condition and rarity, what makes the 1999 1-cent coin stand apart is the confluence of multiple error categories combined into a single specimen, making it virtually unique. And it is this uniqueness that drives the mythical valuation of $987 million. A number reflecting not only the coin's physical attributes but also the frenzy it creates in the numismatic imagination. Now imagine a coin where the mint mark itself shows signs of repunching, a visible D over D error that already elevates its status among collectors. Then add to that a doubled die obverse where Lincoln's profile, lettering, or the date exhibits clear doubling under magnification, a highly desirable error on any cent, but especially in later years when doubled dies were less common than in the early series. Now picture that same coin struck slightly off-center, creating a visible crescent of blank planchet along its edge, which, while usually a minor error, when combined with other mistakes makes the coin even more striking. Then consider the possibility of die cracks stretching across the surface, tiny raised lines where the die itself fractured under the pressure of striking millions of coins, further marking this coin as a survivor of a flawed minting process. Now, beyond physical minting errors, one must also consider transitional anomalies, such as the possibility that a 1999 cent was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a foreign coin, or on a transitional metal blank, like a leftover bronze planchet from 1982 or a foreign copper planchet mistakenly fed into the press, and such an occurrence would instantly elevate the coin to legendary status, as numismatists prize these off-metal errors above almost anything else, with some specimens in the past selling for tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yet the 1999 cent that is said to be worth $987 million is whispered about as a coin that combines several of these traits into one, creating an impossible cocktail of rarity, uniqueness, and historical significance. And while skeptics may scoff at such a valuation, dismissing it as folklore or exaggeration, the truth remains that collectors often place emotional and historical worth far beyond logical appraisal, and when only one specimen of such a coin exists, its price becomes not a matter of market but of myth. Now, looking at the coin from a historical lens, we must remember that 1999 was also a year where technology and tradition collided, with the mint modernizing its processes while still relying on age-old techniques of die creation, and in this overlap, flaws could easily arise, such as machine doubling from worn dies or hand-punched mint mark variations before the full adoption of computerized minting technology. Thus, the D-mint mark of 1999 itself may hold peculiarities unseen in other years. And if this coin shows not only a double D but perhaps even a misaligned or rotated mint mark relative to the design, that alone could fascinate specialists. Now, condition also plays a crucial role in value. For any era coin in pristine condition, graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC as mint state 67 or higher, can exponentially increase in price compared to circulated examples. And if this mythical 1999 D cent exists in such a state, untouched by circulation, its brilliance intact, its errors bold and unmistakable, then one can begin to see why whispers of $1 billion valuation arise, for collectors are not merely buying a piece of metal but a story, a legend, a singular artifact that bridges the gap between ordinary currency and priceless treasure. Yet the true beauty of this story lies not just in the monetary value but in the human imagination that fuels it, because every coin collector dreams of finding that one coin in their pocket change, that overlooked cent or nickel that the rest of the world dismisses as ordinary but which holds within it the power to change a life. And so stories of the 1999 D 1 cent worth $987 million inspire the hunt, encourage careful examination, and keep the passion of numismatics alive. For even if the exact figure seems hyperbolic, the principle remains: rarity plus error plus history equals value. Now let us dig deeper into the types of errors and minting mistakes that could justify such astronomical discussions. Beginning with doubled dies, where during the hubbing process of creating dies, misalignment can cause elements of the design to appear doubled on the final coin, with famous examples like the 1955 doubled die cent fetching huge sums. And if the 1999 D coin carries such doubling on "I in God We Trust" or "Liberty," or the date itself, the parallels to legendary earlier doubled dies would catapult it into fame. Then we have repunched mint marks, where in earlier years before the full switch to single squeeze hubbing, mint marks were punched by hand onto working dies, creating the potential for misplacements, overlapping letters, or multiple impressions. And though by 1999 the practice was waning, transitional inconsistencies could still produce strange mint mark varieties, and a dramatic D over D or misaligned D would capture collectors' imaginations. Furthermore, planchet errors such as off-metal strikes, clipped planchets, or wrong stock thickness add layers of desirability, as does broad striking where the coin is struck without the collar, creating a stretched or distorted appearance. Die clashes occur when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghost-like impressions of the opposite design on each side. And such an error combined with others would only add to the uniqueness. Now rarity is magnified by population, and if indeed only a single example of this extraordinary 1999 D coin exists, then its value transcends the normal market into the realm of pricelessness, where private collectors, museums, or wealthy investors could theoretically bid into the hundreds of millions to secure ownership. For in such cases the value is no longer determined by face value or even bullion content but by the desire to possess what no one else can, and that is why the story of this 1999 D cent continues to resonate. It is not about copper-plated zinc worth less than a penny in metal, but about human fascination with imperfection, rarity, and the chase for treasure in plain sight. So as you reflect on the incredible tale of this coin and its supposed valuation of $987 million, remember that the true worth lies not only in auction estimates or market speculation but in the way it captures our imagination, fuels our curiosity, and drives the relentless pursuit of numismatic discovery. For every pocket change could hide a story, every worn cent could be the beginning of a legend, and perhaps the next extraordinary era coin is waiting quietly in your possession, unknown and unrecognized, until one day you look closely and realize that you are holding not just a coin, but a piece of history capable of changing everything. Welcome back to the channel Liberty Coin Value. We take a deep dive into one of the most fascinating topics in the world of numismatics, the story of the 2008 D 1 cent coin from the United States, a coin that at face value is worth just a penny, yet in the realm of rare coin collecting has become associated with extraordinary claims of value, in some cases reaching a staggering $876 million. And the reasons behind such astronomical worth are tied not to the usual idea of gold or silver content but to the complex world of minting errors, mistakes, die variations, and mint mark anomalies that make certain examples of this coin some of the most sought-after treasures in the world of coin collectors, historians, and investors who understand the power of rarity combined with history. And in order to truly understand how a simple 2008 Denver minted Lincoln cent could reach such legendary status, we need to begin by looking back at the context of the year 2008 itself, a year marked by both economic turmoil with the global financial crisis and significant political and cultural changes, making every item of that era part of a broader story of transition, resilience, and change. And the Lincoln cent itself had already been in circulation for nearly a century, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, designed by Victor David Brenner. And since then it has gone through a number of design adjustments, metal composition changes, and minting techniques, but the 2008 penny falls right at the end of an era, since by 2009 the U.S. Mint would launch the Lincoln Bicentennial Commemorative Series celebrating 200 years since Lincoln's birth. So in many ways the 2008 coin represents the last regular issue before a major design shift, which in itself makes it historically significant for collectors who appreciate transitional issues. But what elevates this coin beyond mere historical interest into the realm of astonishing value are the potential errors, misstrikes, and mint anomalies that can occur in the production process at the Denver Mint, and these errors can include doubled dies where the design appears duplicated slightly offset, creating a striking visual difference, off-center strikes where part of the coin is missing design elements, broad strikes that cause the rim to expand abnormally, die cracks that create raised lines across the coin's surface, clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing because of a faulty blank, and most notably mint mark anomalies where the D mint mark for Denver may appear doubled, repunched, misplaced, or in some cases even missing entirely, all of which turn what would otherwise be a common coin into an extraordinary rarity. And in the numismatic world, rarity combined with demand is the ultimate formula for skyrocketing value, because even though millions of 2008 pennies were struck and distributed, only a handful might exhibit the unique error traits that collectors prize, and when demand for these rare examples outstrips supply, the value can be driven into the millions. And in speculative numismatic discussions this has led to the extraordinary figure of $876 million being attached to the most perfect and rare error-laden example of the 2008 1 cent coin. A number that seems unbelievable but reflects both the fascination and sometimes the hype that surrounds legendary coins. But regardless of whether one believes in the exact number, what is undeniable is that mint error coins from 2008 are worth far more than their face value, and in pristine condition with dramatic errors they can command prices ranging from thousands to potentially millions in the right circumstances. And it's important to remember that the Denver Mint has long been associated with producing large numbers of Lincoln cents, and in high-volume production environments, the chance of mistakes occurring is higher, meaning the possibility for error coins to escape into circulation is always there, and for collectors this is exactly the kind of opportunity that makes searching through rolls of pennies or examining pocket change so exciting, because hidden in plain sight might be a coin that could change a person's life. Now when we consider why the 2008 coin has such a mythic aura around it, we should also look at the psychology of collecting, because collectors are not only chasing after tangible objects, they are chasing stories. They want to own a piece of history, something that connects them to a moment in time. And the 2008 penny offers that in abundance because it stands at the end of the Lincoln Memorial Reverse era, which began in 1959 and was about to give way to the Lincoln Bicentennial Reverses in 2009. So in a way it is both an ending and a beginning, and layered on top of that transitional importance are the mint errors that make some examples one of a kind. And when something is truly one of a kind, collectors with deep pockets will go to extraordinary lengths to acquire it, driving up its market worth exponentially. But let us break down in detail some of the most important types of errors found on 2008 pennies that could justify such high valuations, starting with double die errors. These occur when during the hubbing process of creating a die, the design is accidentally imprinted more than once with slight misalignment, creating a doubling effect. And on Lincoln cents this doubling is most often looked for in areas such as the date, the words Liberty, or the motto, In God We Trust. And when doubling is dramatic, it can increase a coin's value by thousands of dollars. Then we have repunched mint marks, which are highly collectible, and in the case of a 2008 penny, a repunched D could mean that the mint mark was stamped more than once in slightly different positions, a practice that was far more common in earlier decades but still occasionally occurred in modern coinage, creating fascinating varieties. Next, there are off-center strikes, which result from the coin blank not being properly centered between the dies during striking, producing coins where parts of the design are missing, and the more dramatic the off-center strike while still retaining a visible date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. Then there are broad strikes where the collar die that shapes the coin's rim malfunctions, causing the coin to spread out wider than normal. And these often produce coins that look distorted and unusual. Again, prized by collectors, die cracks and cuds are also common mint errors, where damage to the die produces raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin's surface. And while minor cracks may not be worth much, dramatic die breaks that obscure parts of the design can significantly increase a coin's value. Clipped planchets are another category, occurring when the coin blank is cut improperly and part of the coin is literally missing. And these too can fetch strong premiums. And lastly, we must consider struck-through errors, where foreign materials such as grease or debris gets between the die and the coin blank during striking, resulting in areas of the design being missing or faded, a fascinating error for collectors. Now, when you put all of these possibilities together and imagine a coin that exhibits multiple dramatic errors on a single specimen, you begin to understand how legends of extreme valuations like $876 million arise. Because such a coin would truly be unique, and uniqueness is the ultimate driver of extreme prices. Add to that the fact that the 2008 cent is already a coin with historical significance as the final regular Lincoln Memorial reverse from Denver, and you have a perfect storm of collector demand, rarity, and speculative value. And while the average 2008 penny in circulation is still just worth 1 cent, the truth is that collectors who pay attention and examine their coins carefully may discover varieties and errors worth hundreds, thousands, or even life-changing sums. And that is why stories of this coin achieving astronomical values continue to circulate in numismatic circles and among enthusiasts online, fueling even greater interest in searching for these coins. And when we step back and look at the broader picture, the 2008 1-cent coin becomes a symbol of why coin collecting is so endlessly fascinating. Because it teaches us that value is not always in the material composition of the object but in its history, its mistakes, and its rarity, making something as small and humble as a penny potentially worth more than mansions, yachts, or even entire companies. And that is why the legend of the 2008 penny worth $876 million continues to captivate imaginations, reminding us that hidden treasures may still be out there waiting to be discovered in the most ordinary of places. And as collectors, historians, and dreamers, we are all part of the search, each penny a mystery waiting to be solved, and that journey is what makes numismatics not just a hobby but a lifelong adventure filled with wonder, history, and sometimes unbelievable rewards. We explore the 2017 United States 1-cent coin, a humble Lincoln cent struck at the Denver Mint that has recently gained extraordinary attention due to claims of being worth an astonishing $744 million, far beyond its original face value of just 1 cent. And while such a claim might sound unbelievable at first, the reality is that coins like this have become legendary in the collector's world because of their unusual errors, unexpected minting mistakes, striking anomalies, and the possibility of extremely rare die varieties that transform a common coin into a priceless treasure. And to understand why the 2017 penny could ever be linked to such a staggering valuation, we first need to appreciate the broader context of the Lincoln cent, a coin first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, designed by Victor David Brenner. And since then it has been in continuous production for more than a century, making it the longest-running coin design in United States history. And throughout this long production history, countless varieties, minting errors, doubled dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, repunched mint marks, transitional planchet errors, and wrong metal strikes have been discovered, each time creating waves of excitement in the numismatic community as everyday pocket change revealed hidden treasures worth thousands, millions, and in legendary tales, even hundreds of millions of dollars. So when we examine the 2017 penny, we must consider all these possible errors and scenarios that could elevate a coin's value astronomically. And that is where the story gets truly fascinating, because the Denver Mint in 2017 produced over 4 billion pennies, making the chance of finding something extraordinary slim but not impossible. Yet when one anomaly slips through the strict quality control of the U.S. Mint, it becomes a unique piece of history. And that uniqueness is what collectors are willing to pay extreme amounts for, because rarity combined with historical significance and desirability creates a perfect storm of value. So now let us dive into the specific reasons why a 2017 D penny could theoretically reach the staggering $744 million valuation that has been circulating among passionate coin enthusiasts and speculative collectors. Starting with minting errors, which have always been at the core of numismatic treasures, and one of the most dramatic types of error is the double die obverse or reverse, where the die itself shifts during the hubbing process, causing the design elements such as Lincoln's profile, the word liberty, the motto "I in God we trust," or the date 2017 to appear doubled, and such dramatic doubling has in the past created some of the most valuable coins like the famous 1955 double die penny or the 1969 S double die, both worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in pristine condition. So if a 2017 D penny with such extreme doubling exists, it could immediately skyrocket in value. And when we combine that with the fever of speculation and the desire for modern rarities, it is not hard to see collectors pushing the value into legendary numbers. Next, we must consider planchet errors, where the blank piece of metal used to strike the coin is incorrect either in composition, weight, or size. And historically, there have been coins struck on wrong planchets, such as a Lincoln cent struck on a dime planchet, or even foreign planchets left in the presses accidentally. And in 2017, since the penny was struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, a rare mistake such as striking it on an older copper planchet from pre-1982 stock, or even on a nickel or dime planchet could create a spectacular rarity, with values in the millions. And when a one-of-a-kind such piece is discovered, speculative valuations could indeed climb into the hundreds of millions as wealthy collectors compete for ownership of the only example known to exist. Another category that fuels incredible value is off-center strikes or multiple strikes, where the coin is misaligned in the press and receives a partial image, or even two overlapping strikes. And while most off-center strikes are modestly valued, a perfectly dramatic one with clear date and mint mark could command extraordinary attention, especially in modern issues like the 2017 D, where such errors are far less common due to improved minting technology, making any surviving dramatic example even more special. Furthermore, there are die cracks and cuts where parts of the die break away, causing raised lines or missing areas of design on the coin. And while these are often collected as minor errors, in rare cases extremely dramatic die breaks covering large portions of the design can create iconic error coins that excite the market. Now, perhaps the most intriguing possibility for the 2017 D penny reaching that legendary valuation lies in the area of transitional errors and experimental strikes, because the US Mint is constantly testing different alloys, metals, and designs behind the scenes, and on rare occasions test planchets or transitional pieces accidentally make it into circulation. And if a 2017 D penny was somehow struck on an experimental planchet intended for a future coinage or struck in pure copper by accident, it could immediately become a one-of-a-kind specimen with astronomical speculative value. And this is exactly the kind of scenario that drives talk of figures like $744 million, because rarity at that level transcends numismatics and enters into the realm of art, history, and prestige ownership among billionaires, where price is dictated not by face value or even traditional collector market but by the psychology of exclusivity, where having the only known example makes it priceless. And another layer to this story is the mint mark itself, because Denver mint marks have historically shown varieties such as repunched mint marks, overpunched marks, or misplaced mint marks. And if a 2017 D penny was found with a dramatic repunched mint mark error or even a missing mint mark where the D should have been, it could become the most desirable modern penny known, and such an anomaly would fuel speculation and astronomical asking prices. Now, when considering why such coins reach values like $744 million, we must also understand the psychology of collectors and investors. Because while the real market value of most error coins may range in the hundreds or thousands, once a coin becomes the focus of myth and speculation, it can transcend into legendary territory, similar to famous works of art or rare diamonds where wealthy buyers compete simply because they can. And the more a coin is talked about as priceless or unique, the more its perceived value grows. And in the case of the 2017 D penny, there have been whispers and claims of extraordinary discoveries, coins with doubling, off-metal strikes, or spectacular mint errors. And when such stories circulate, the aura of mystery fuels hype, and hype fuels extreme speculative valuations, creating tales like the $744 million figure, which might sound unbelievable but serves as a symbol of the coin's legendary potential. And while the average 2017 D penny in circulation is worth only face value, and even uncirculated examples sell for a modest premium, the possibility that a rare error version exists keeps collectors searching every coin, checking dates, mint marks, and details under magnification, hoping to find the one that changes their life forever. And history has proven that such finds are real, because everyday people have pulled 1955 double die cents, 1943 copper pennies, and other rarities worth tens or hundreds of thousands right out of pocket change, and that is why the fascination with modern coins like the 2017 D continues. Because lightning can strike at any time, and the thought of holding a coin potentially valued at hundreds of millions of dollars keeps the dream alive. So in conclusion, the story of the 2017 D United States 1-cent coin and its supposed $744 million valuation is not just about the metal itself but about the convergence of minting errors, historical possibility, collector psychology, and the mystique of rarity, and whether such a coin truly exists or remains a legend. The lesson for every collector is to always check your change carefully, study the details of every coin, and remember that hidden treasures are still out there, waiting to be discovered, and perhaps one day you could be the person who uncovers a humble penny from Denver struck in 2017 that turns out to be a one-of-a-kind error, sparking a frenzy in the numismatic world and achieving the kind of astronomical valuation that makes headlines, inspires new collectors, and keeps the passion for coin collecting alive across generations, because after all, the magic of numismatics is not just in the coins themselves but in the stories, the history, the excitement of the hunt, and the dream that 1 cent could be worth $744 million if the right errors, mistakes, and mint mark anomalies align perfectly to create a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And that dream is what keeps this fascinating hobby alive and thriving.